not just about the shooting, it's about, you know, giving the effect to the guys on the ground, and that's not always pulling the trigger.
Everybody, well, don't you know it's me now? Yeah, who's it? Well, he's back with a brand new beat now. Yeah, doing it. Hey, 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 yeah. Try to buy my sound. Hey, hey, yeah. How you like me now?
Hello and welcome to Camp Bastion as we take a special look at the second operational deployment of Prince Harry. Up in the skies instead of out on the ground, this time around it's been a very different operational tour compared to when the Prince was last here in 2007 to 2008. For the last 4 months, Captain Harry Wales has been deployed on Op Herrick 17, working as an Apache pilot, taking the front seat in this mean machine in one of the world's most dangerous countries. In the heat of Helmand, the #1 enemy for an Apache crew is the waiting. When the call comes in, they can be in the air in 6 minutes. But for now, it's a waiting game and a battle with the flies.
I lost for the first time yesterday while you guys were here at Uckers, and then I lost 2 days ago and yesterday. So since you guys have been here, I've only lost. I won last night, which was good, very quickly.
He's been working with 662 Squadron 3 Regiment Army Air Corps based out of Camp Bastion. It's a busy role, and during the very high readiness or VHR phase of operations, Harry and his squadron are on call several hours a day, ready to respond to the needs of the troops on the ground. On duty, it's FIFA that becomes the squadron's best friend.
Oh, there it is.
Essentially, we just sit inside the tent, play computer games, watch movies, and play Uckers. And essentially, we'll sit there and wait for the phone to go.
That was a replay of nothing to do with the goal. Yeah. That was me taking you out.
I'm one of those people that during my flying course especially, I would be fine at flying. I probably should have done a lot more reading, but I was fine at flying. And then every now and then a written test would come up. I'd be absolutely useless. And I've been like that from stage 1 of my youth. Exams were always a nightmare, but anything like kicking a ball around or playing PlayStation or flying, I generally find it a little bit easier than walking sometimes.
Oh, you didn't see that coming, did you?
When the phone goes, it could be anything from a medevac through to troops in contact, through to a priority, which is guys being seen with a weapon system, probably moving into a fire position to cause harm. So anything like that, or just to cover overwatch for a patrol that's out on the ground that are vulnerable.
Finally, a call comes and it's time to move. Every second counts. Lives are on the line.
Get to the aircraft as quick as possible. About 6.5, 7 minutes, I think, is the quickest we've got it going. You can't lift off until certain things are done in the aircraft, and then as soon as you've got clearance from the ops room, straight up and off you go as fast as you can. Once you're there, who knows what the situation is going to be like. So as soon as we get out of here, LCJ's jacket's on, Dave jumps in the back, starts the aircraft up. There's a pre-flight eye bit that the aircraft has to go through that takes about a minute and a half, depending on what the state of the aircraft is, what mood it's in. While it's all doing that, basically everything in this aircraft takes time to warm up, but once it's warm, it's good to go and it's spot on.
As the co-pilot gunner, Captain Wales sits at the front, operating the Apache's arsenal of weapons, handling communications and a complex mapping and targeting system. The Apache is one of the most advanced attack helicopters in the world, capable of flying up to 205 miles per hour and boasting a range of weapons including Hellfire laser-guided missiles and a 30mm chain gun. Able to fly in freezing cold or scorching desert heat, it can operate day or night and detect, classify and prioritise up to 256 potential targets in seconds. And being such a complicated beast, is designed for a PlayStation generation. The commanding officer of 3 Regiment Army Air Corps needs pilots with responses as quick as his aircraft.
Well, it's really instructive that we brought it out here right from the beginning in 2006 to this part of Afghanistan. It's an incredible aircraft with a very good sensor suite that allows you from high up in the sky to understand what is going on the ground. The radio suite is excellent as well, so you can talk to all of those who are on the ground executing the missions. And then if you need to, you've got a system of weapons on it which allow you to choose the most appropriate weapon system to engage any enemy that you identify to support the ground troops who might be getting into trouble. So in sum, it's a fantastic piece of kit with great versatility and it's flown by people who are very good at their job.
Prince Harry has always been quite open about his dislike of exams and how he is more practical and hands-on, so the Apache is an aircraft that plays to his strengths.
So I'm in the front, basically setting up the pages. 9 times out of 10 you're at the head of the aircraft. And then you do a master load, which is basically like a hard drive straight into the aircraft that wakes the aircraft up. All the information on that disk goes into the aircraft. So if you put any information into the screens or into the computer, before that happens, it overwrites it. So then you have to start again. So yes, you can get to the aircraft as quick as you can, but then you just kind of, once you're in, that's all you can do. You have to wait for the aircraft to do all its thing and wait for Dave to start up the engines. Once the engines start, once you're rolling, that's when my job starts to become a little bit rushed. So yeah, get the sighting system up. Make sure all the weapons, make sure all the inventory is right, basically making sure that however many rockets I know are in there are showing in there. Fuel, make sure we've got enough fuel for the trip, there's no reason why we shouldn't. Make sure no missiles are unlatched because that's going to ruin your day if you have to use one. And apart from that, there's very little to do in the front until we take off, and then once the radios start, that's when it all starts getting quite exciting. So we've got the comms panel up here, so we know exactly what's going on. 2 computer screens, TDAC, which is here, which is basically my targeting system, and then the trigger grips here, which is basically, well, designed for the younger generation. Let's put it that way. Every button's got a different texture on it, so that for some reason the buttons aren't lit. There must have been a reason for that, but instead they're all different textures. So at night you should be able to tell what button you're pressing. There are still times when obviously you press the wrong button, but you know pretty soon after that you've pressed the wrong one.
From troops on the ground, the Apache commands a huge amount of respect, its call sign known as Ugly. Prince Harry has made no secret of the fact that he wanted to join the Uglies long ago, but his loyalty to his original regiment remains.
My helmet, which is kind of a personal thing, it's the only place you can really have all your own stuff on it. So for me, my OC allowed me to have my blue, red, blue badge, which means a lot to me. Got my American wings that I got given by one of the instructors during the course. Go ugly early. No, there's no story behind that. It just is what it is. This may look like something pointless, but because the netting, it's netting in the helmet, you can never wash it. This is one thing that you can wash, so that stops that. And also, once you've got the monocle on the head, if you start swinging your head around, hair with that netting basically just slides around, so you lose your line of sight. So that's why I wear that. Knee board, very useful. The ones that we get issued on the course are enormous. So this is an American one, which is actually quite useful. We've always suggested that we get them because they make all you need is paper. That's all you need, just to scribble stuff down. And then after every mission, I suppose I should have saved them all, but I haven't, because instead of keeping it neat, it's just covered in rubbish. Digimap, which is basically, I suppose it's like an iTouch. It's got all the compound mapping on it, so you can link up the Digimap with the maps themselves. So the guys on the ground, rather than having to be talked on to a single compound, you just get given a number tie up the grid into the aircraft, and it slaves the sighting system straight onto it.
The pilots may take centre stage here, but there is a huge amount of work that goes on behind the scenes by a dedicated ground crew to keep the Apaches operational and to keep Prince Harry safely up in the skies. On shift today are Staff Sergeant Ben Westney and Corporal Graham Carr.
Especially with the harsh environment and the tempo of the flying out here, they've got a lot of hours flown on them. However, that's the whole point for us to be out here and carry out the scheduled servicing and any unscheduled faults that arise. Basically think of it as a car servicing, except on a more regular basis. So working around the clock to get them flying.
It's a bit of kit that we're very lucky to have, and that the infantry lads who are out on the ground are always pleased to see. And it's always nice when they come around for their visits to hear positive things back about the Apache.
In his role as a helicopter pilot working as part of the Joint Aviation Group here in Afghanistan, Captain Wells uses his Apache for surveillance, to escort other aircraft, to act as a deterrent and to also provide close combat attack support. During periods of very high readiness, it's all about responding to the needs on the ground, but there are also planned missions to work on. It's a role that comes with lots of responsibilities, as every shot and decision has to be accounted for.
Every time you run to the aircraft, you get that adrenaline rush, and then once you're in the aircraft, you've got to try to slow yourself down, because otherwise, if the adrenaline's pumping too much and everything's happening too quickly, then you're going to miss something. And you narrow down the checks to keep them as short and brief as possible, but all the essential ones. And as I said, it's all about getting from A to B as quickly as possible. But at the end of the day, if you've had a few shouts and things have got quite hectic in the cockpit, and you've got no adrenaline left in you, then you're exhausted.
J3 briefs complete. So you've got JTARS 1300.
It's not simply about the flying. Every planned mission to support operations is meticulously thought out, and with aircraft as complicated as these, there are plenty of pre-flight checks. Outside of the confines of Camp Bastion, Captain Wells and his squadron have spent the last 4 months across the hostile Helmand province, over green zone and desert, often supporting the Chinook air crews and the troops they transport across theatre. One of the main roles of the Apache teams out here in theatre is to provide air support to the MERT, the Medical Emergency Response Team. These frontline lifesavers fly into danger zones to pick up injured troops, bringing them back to treat at the Roll 3 Hospital here in Camp Bastion. It's the role of the Apache pilots to provide air cover for the medics during those crucial minutes after an incident when life hangs in the balance.
There's a lot of pressures, obviously, when we go and support the Americans, or when we're escorting the MERT and the Tricky. That's normally the worst, because there is pressure on the fact that you've got to get that aircraft in and out safely. Clearly, there's a bloke injured on the ground, so you need to make sure it happens very quickly. And also, sometimes with the Americans, it's hard to get hold of them because of the difference in the radio systems and stuff like that.
Often, because of the sheer impact the Apache has, it deters the enemy. But like any other soldier on the front line, Captain Wells has the right to fire his weapons if lives are under threat.
It's pretty noisy. We got CEPs, which is basically earplugs that are connected onto the helmet as well. It's better than driving around in a tank, as far as I can tell. When you fire, you still get the cordite smell, which is bizarre. The whole floor vibrates, and when you fire a missile, the whole aircraft shudders a little bit. Obviously, a lot of people would decide that this aircraft is a strike platform. I think towards the beginning of Herrick it probably was, and now has the capability, but it's being used much more widely, mainly as a deterrent, because the guys recognise the sound and the shape of the aircraft, so they know. When I say the guys, I mean the insurgents. It's a case of, right, they're above, we're not going to do anything. So I think despite the fact that there's a lot less kinetics in the area, we're flying less. But once we're out there, once we're on the other side of the fence, essentially we're doing as much as we can to make sure that the guys aren't being shot at, and if they are being shot at, where they're being shot from, then do whatever we have to do, you know, with the capabilities of the aircraft.
The action doesn't always stay outside the fence. Less than a week into his tour, danger came calling at Camp Bastion. Insurgents breached its perimeter fence and damaged US Harriers. The attackers were killed. It's a day no one will forget, least of all Captain Wales.
It just so happened that it coincided with I think it was about 15 guys that attacked the base. Obviously the papers back home were like, oh, this is all against me. No one really knows yet, but I think it was more towards the book and the Americans. But either way, you know, this camp is in the middle of Afghanistan, and you know, it should be expected to be attacked at any point. And the guys dealt with it really well. And it was on my birthday, so it was a bit of a reality check.
Fob Ulet in the Upper Gresh Valley is now one of the larger forward operating bases that British troops are currently based in. When he deployed 5 years ago, Captain Wales was living in a fob like this, eating rations and getting stuck in with his fellow soldiers. A media blackout agreed by the British press meant the Prince was previously able to serve 10 weeks on the front line as a Joint Tactical Air Controller, or JTAC, calling in air support from fast jets for colleagues on the ground who needed help.
Got an MRT up at 30,000 feet. That's basically supposedly covert. You know, it's so high that it shouldn't affect the pattern of life of what's going on down below. Recently, the Terry Taliban and his mates, as soon as they hit air, they go to ground. So, which makes life a little bit tricky. So having air, having something that gives us a visual feedback from way up, means that they can carry on their normal sort of pattern of life and we can follow them.
Nor was he sheltered from life on the front line, getting hands-on with weapons and going out on patrol. It was a job he clearly relished, which allowed him relative anonymity and freedom.
To be honest with you, out here is one nice thing, not knowing what's in the paper and what rubbish people are writing. So just about in general. So yeah, it's very nice to be out of touch from everything. That is probably the nicest bit about this place.
But in early 2008, his secret was leaked by foreign websites and he was swiftly removed from theatre. It was a disappointing blow for the then Cornet Wales, who had hoped to serve a full tour with his unit. Reskilling and training as a pilot was seen as his only way of getting back out to Afghanistan, but his previous role had definitely given him a head start.
Once you've been on the ground, you're able to talk on to enemy positions, whatever range they are. It's not as easy as it sounds, and though I'm sitting up here now speaking to the guys, and the guys are sort of maybe a bit slow talking us on, it's massively frustrating for them and us, but that's the nature of the beast. Out there, it is flat as a pancake. Every compound looks the same. You have no idea in distance, and obviously we've got you know, tools and things that help us pinpoint the firing point and stuff like that. But from my perspective, just being a JTAC, it's just you get the lingo, you know what the guys are thinking, and you're able to sort of, I wouldn't say keep them calm because they're calm, they're cool as cucumbers out there anyway. But it just helps. I think the dream ticket for the Army Air Corps would be having all pilots that have been on the ground at some point. That would be fantastic. You know, guys coming straight out of Sandhurst, right, I want to join the Army Air Corps, right, off you go, do a tour, or do 6 months with a ground unit so that you get the rough idea what's going on. That's why this aircraft is Army and it's not RAF, because the guys are able to link in with the blokes on the ground. It's as simple as that.
From the Blues and Royals to the Army Air Corps, it's been quite a journey to get the Prince back out to Afghanistan, and it's not been without its compromises.
It's a weird reality being stuck in Bastion. For me, I hate it being stuck here. I'd much rather be out the lads and in a PB. The last job was for me personally better. Obviously, lots of guys like the luxury and the comforts of Bastion. But what's weird, as I said, is we're stuck in Bastion, and you know what's going on out there is completely separate. But as soon as we're outside the fence, we're in the thick of it. Yes, okay, we're at 2,000 feet, supposedly safe, but you know anything can go wrong with this thing. But at the end of the day, we're out there to provide cover and protection for the guys on the ground. And you know, once we're outside the fence, all this stuff is just forgotten about. My choice would have been back out on the ground with my regiment, It sounds quite a sport when I'm standing in front of this thing, £45 million worth. But yeah, I think hopefully my friends and family back home know exactly what I'm talking about.
Now, you might expect that being a prince and third in line to the throne, Captain Wells would be treated very differently here in theatre, perhaps working or living separately from other troops. But on the contrary, he's lived his tour here like any other officer, and that includes eating at Camp Bastion dining facilities known as DFACs.
For me, it's not that normal because I go into the cookhouse and everyone has a good old gulp, and that's one thing that I dislike about being here, because there's plenty of guys in there that have never met me, therefore probably look at me as being Prince Harry as opposed to Captain Wales, which is frustrating, which is probably another reason why I'd love to be out in the PBs, away from it all. But yeah, it's completely normal. It's as normal as it's going to get. I'm one of the guys. I don't get treated any differently.
On this tour, Captain Wells has made it clear that he doesn't want any special treatment, even though he is a prince on a mission. Something that those he serves with respect.
Captain Wales is just another member of the squadron and another member of our flight, and we all work together the same as we would with anyone else that comes in and out of the cruise, so it's a situation no change.
He comes in, he makes a brews for the boys, he chats, he has banter, he is just a normal member of our crew.
He is, as far as I'm concerned, given no special treatment. I treat him very much as I do the rest of my officers within the squadron. He responds very well to that, and I think he enjoys being part of the squadron fabric. Certainly being out here, he has afforded some anonymity at least, and has seamlessly integrated to the squadron very well.
Once you're wearing the uniform, you are part of the gang, and fine, I'm the Queen's grandson and all that good stuff, and I'm out here representing her. But to be honest with you, as far as I see it, and as far as William sees it as well, our service towards our country in the military, whichever shape or form it takes, will always come first. And I know some people look at it thinking, well, it's all a big bluff. The only reason they're doing this is to keep themselves out of public duties. Well, to a certain extent, yes. There's no reason for us to take on full-on public duties at the moment because we're doing public service.
But back home, public duties such as charity work, representing the royal family overseas and supporting last summer's London Olympics kept him very busy in the lead-up to his deployment.
You've got to be able to sort of flick the switch all the time. As I think I said a while back, there was sort of three me's. There were, one in the army, one sort of socially, my own private time, and then one sort of with the family and stuff like that. So, there is a switch, and I flick it when necessary. I like to think that it's measured and balanced as the way it is. Army comes first. It is my work. At the end of the day, no one back home gets to see the stuff that I do at work, and there's no reason why they should. Especially working with this aircraft and the stuff that we do, there's no reason why it should be publicised. So that whenever anybody sees me, they presume that I'm off gallivanting around. It is. I mean, I don't want to sound as though I'm whinging, but there are times when, doing all the army stuff and doing public engagements and stuff like that, which is exhausting. Whereas people criticise me, going, "Well, hang on a second. If he's an Apache pilot, how has he got time to go and do these things?" Well, it's very easy. With the guys in London and with the guys at Watersham, they work out a balance. As long as I'm current on the aircraft and as long as I'm not falling behind, then there's an opportunity to go off and do something with World Child or whoever it may be, whether it's charity or something else.
Apache missions come throughout the night as well as the day, with crews on call 24 hours. During his tour, Captain Wells has seen the hot September sun give way to freezing December and January nights. But it's not just British troops the air crews support. With Afghanistan transitioning more day by day, the Apaches are also there for their colleagues in the Afghan National Security Forces.
It's an Afghan-led operation in Ops Box Ricky, which is just northeast of Lashnagar. We stand off 8 kilometres, speaking to the UK JTACs, and basically giving the guys the support. It's nice for the ANA as well, the NSF, to know that they've got Apache nearby if needed. They get very overexcited if we do end up firing, and we're here to support whoever's on the ground. Whereas it used to be very much front seat, you're firing the whole time. Now, yes, we fire when we have to, take a life to save a life, but essentially, we're more of a deterrent than anything else. We're a hugely reliable asset, and as I said, the main thing for us is tricky escorts. If guys get injured, we come straight into the overhead, puts off any possibility of an insurgent attack, because they look at us and just go, right, that's an unfair fight, we're not going to go near them. But occasionally we get taken on, the guys get taken on even when we're in the overhead. So yeah, I mean it's a pretty complex job for everybody involved, but it's not just about the shooting, it's about giving the effect to the guys on the ground, and that's not always pulling the trigger.
With the crisper evenings, Christmas is approaching. And even a prince can get into the Christmas spirit, giving tea duty a seasonal twist.
So it's fair to say when you're on night duty normally it's a fairly broken night's kit?
I think during the summertime it is. The guys are up quite a lot. This time of year, when we started we'd be caught up maybe once, maybe twice at the most. But now it's getting cold. It's fairly quiet. Less stuff happens at night.
What happens on Christmas Day for you guys?
What happens for you?
And is it normal duties?
Yeah, it's normal for us. I think there's less patrols. No one really goes out patrolling, so there's no guys on the ground, which reduces the element of us having to go out. But I think we're on duty crew, so we'll just be doing air tests and stuff like that. I just hope they'll be done. When you're here, you're being the most effective, I guess, because when you're on the other side, if anything happened, you can't do anything about it. Our block is right next door to the hospital in Nightingale, so on a sort of regular basis, we've got the tricky Chinook coming over the top of the block, and if you're sitting outside, reading a magazine or inside, there's stuff going on in the AO around Helmand, and there's nothing, and you're not part of it, so you kind of feel as though if you're here, you should be doing something. So yeah, when you're down here, you definitely feel as though you're there, closer to the fence as such.
It wasn't just Camp Bastion that got all festive, with Captain Wells showing how a few simple additions leave him with no need for a palace.
Christmas lights, we had those turned on last night. Fountain, can't miss the fountain. It needs sun in order to operate, which is normally a daily thing here, but today it's going to rain, so yeah. But apparently it's good. I don't know, it's like a mini golf thing, thing. We may as
It's
well.
not quite homely.
Really? I'll show you the homely bit. Paradigm phone. So this is as much privacy as one would get, but it's fine because there's only 4 of us down here. So if you're sitting in that seat, then you're probably speaking to home, I would have thought. A storeroom, the usual things. And then just a lot of plastic cups and plates and spoons and stuff like that, which I keep getting upset with people saying don't use more than one plastic plate unless you have to. And they're like, no one seems to get it. Yeah, save the planet and all that. Sleeping accommodation. Luxury at its best, I guess. These weren't here until yesterday. Someone's put these up, no one really knows why. It's not like we need a partition, but anyway, it looks nice. Spare beds, our 4 beds. We get mattresses, proper mattresses as opposed to these, which most other people get. It's flat, it's got springs, it's better than a cot bed, which is what all the other guys are sleeping in. So when you can't really roll left or right, you're stuck in a bit of a V. But yeah, I think it used to be the old gym Hence you can see, please replace weights after use. Only when we're on night VHR do we sleep down here. There's no other reason why we want to sleep down here. This is my bed. I don't really make it when I'm down here, which is a joy. That's it, made. So yeah, when we're down here, we sleep in here, and then when we're off duty, we sleep in the block. Which the best way of describing it is porter cabins on top of each other, I would have thought, and then each porter cabin is sort of split into two. Two people share each room, and you have a few home comforts, but nothing big. I've got a couple of rugs, one rug that I bought from home and another one that someone gave to me, an Afghan rug. Some guys have got posters, some guys have got family photos on the walls, but my walls are pretty plain. But yeah, this is the only bit of the accommodation you guys are going to get to see, because that side's more of our sort of private side, what's left of it for me. But yeah, it's everyone's private space. It's the only bit of camp that we get where we can have our own quiet time and on the internet and stuff. It's got wireless, which is really nice, so the guys can use FaceTime. I haven't used FaceTime yet, but other people have. So yeah, when we're down here, it's pretty straightforward. If the phone, we've got another Shout phone next to his bed, so if that goes off, then out we run. But seeing that most of us sleep with earplugs down here because of the noise, that phone is turned up full max volume, and yeah, Si will answer it, and then we'll all run as fast as we can to the aircraft. At which point you have that taste of blood in your mouth, and then only then do you realise, do you know what's going on, whether it's a tricky shout or whatever it is. In daytime it's a lot easier, I suppose. At night, because you're just woken up, you've got to run to the aircraft. There's a much bigger risk, I suppose, just by piling in on the way to the aircraft for one, without a torch, tripping over anything, and then obviously getting the aircraft ready as well. We're on 30 minutes notice to move at night, 15 at day, but during the day, it's 15 minutes, I think, because from the moment that something happens out there, the time it goes on JChat, the time that we get an asset gets tasked to it, it's normally about 15 minutes by the time we're wheels up. But we've actually got it down to about 6.5 minutes from when we get the call to when we're wheels up in the aircraft, which is the best. It's the best we can do. You can't go any quicker. Some of the old people in the other flights, about 7.5, 8 minutes. No names mentioned. And then at night we have 30 minutes notice to move, just because we need the flow and stuff to turn on, so that we can see where we're going. If it's a tricky shout, then you'll probably just take off, fly reversionary, and wait for the flow to catch up. Just because it's a matter between 30 seconds and a minute whether someone's going to live or die to get tricky in, I suppose.
When you come back in after a patrol or a mission out there, how easy do you find it to sort of switch off and fall straight down to sleep, or does it take a little bit of wind down time?
Everything takes wind down time. When we're on the course as well, we during night flying and stuff like that, because back home in the summer we were the ones who were night flying, so you'd end up night flying about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and you'd finish about 1:30, 2 o'clock, depending on how your debrief went. And because you've been working so hard on the flight controls, you'd be buzzing basically, and you wouldn't be able to sleep. So you'd end up spending another hour and a half sitting around or lying in bed trying to close your eyes, and it would never happen. So there is an element of that out here. I think you fly so many hours, you kind of get used to it. I haven't had a shout that's involved getting up in the middle of the night then going back to sleep again. Ours are normally late at night or very first thing in the morning. I would say 2, 3 o'clock in the morning is a shocker, because you come back at about 5, and then you've got an hour and a half to push if you wanted to. But yeah, then we came back here and we played a bit of FIFA, watched the Royal Variety performance, and then eventually went to sleep. So we didn't get to bed until about 1:30 because we were still wide awake. But yeah, I suppose the point being, 1 minute you're in bed asleep, 6.5 minutes later you're speaking to somebody on the ground who's being shot at. But yeah, I suppose you just get used to it, I guess. I normally chew chewing gum to keep me concentrating.
Captain Wells has never been far from his family's thoughts whilst on tour, and shortly before he flew home from Afghanistan, his father spoke on television about what it was like to be an anxious parent.
If you are a parent or a relation or loved one, and the person you love is away like that in these incredibly dangerous and challenging circumstances, I know you worry all the time. Certainly every night when I go to bed, I worry. And but he loves doing what he's doing. He's brilliant at it. I think he's helping to keep the nasties' heads down and protecting our troops on the ground. But I do know, yes, I constantly meet the families of those who've lost their sons or husbands or brothers or sisters. I have some understanding, at least, of what they go through.
His worries were also echoed in Prince Charles's first ever Christmas message, recorded for troops on the front line.
With the 2 sons currently serving in the armed forces, one of whom is with you all out there, I really do have at least some understanding of what your loved ones on the home front are going through. They are clearly missing you deeply, particularly at this time of year.
It's no surprise that Prince Harry's distrust of the media goes back many years, but with him once again back on the front line, and this time in an extremely attractive role to the press, he knows there will always be an appetite for what he gets up to.
I don't believe there is any such thing as private life anymore. I'm not going to sit here and whinge. Everyone knows about Twitter and the internet and stuff like that. Every single mobile phone has got a camera on it now. You can't move an inch without someone judging you. And I suppose that's just the way life goes. It's not helped by the media, but I think certain people have tried to do their best, but it's an unstoppable force.
While the Prince has been away, it's been an exciting time for the royal family, especially his brother William and his wife Kate, as it was while Harry was in Afghanistan that news of the royal baby was announced.
Obviously I'm thrilled for both of them. It's about time, and I can't wait to be an uncle. I think it's very unfair that they were forced to publicise it when they were, but that's just the media for you.
Away from Afghanistan, Prince Harry's charity work has been hugely important to him, with military charities and the values they promote especially close to his heart.
I've got Walking with the Wounded South Pole adventure coming up. Medically, if I can do that, that's perfect, because I'd love to do it, because missing out on the North Pole thing was a real dig in the ribs. But that was another experience I had with a bunch of military guys who are really sound, and it's nice to see the effect it's had as well. I think seeing on the news ex-servicemen and women being used to incorporate the training and the standards that are sort of within the army. I'm not going to bore you with it, but it's nice to see that the military is being used to bring along youth as such, because I think the family bond that happens in the military is second to none, especially within the British military. And those standards that we pride ourselves on, and that seriously that work and show that they work, can be used more in schools, not necessarily for antisocial behaviour, just in general. I think for teamwork and stuff like that. I think it's an opportunity that should have been used a long time ago.
Having served for a second time here in Afghanistan, Captain Wales is now back in the UK and ready to pick up his duties as Prince Harry once again. Operation 17 has been a very different tour from Operation 7. The country has changed and Lieutenant Wales has now become a captain, able to control one of the most advanced attack helicopters in the world. With 2014 looming, he may not now return again to theatre, but he goes home with the knowledge that, like any other member of the British military, he was part of the effort to keep Afghanistan safe.
This was my main effort to get back out to Afghanistan. It took a little bit longer because of certain reasons, but yeah, I'm out here now, so that part of me that's another tick in the box. As to how long I'm going to spend in the army, who knows? I will continue to bounce between my army job and the other job, of which people back home seem to fail to understand. They seem to think that if they see me out doing something, whether it's charity work or whether it's just out on a weekend, yes, funny enough, we get weekends off, all the army do. And yes, I have to juggle my time between flying this thing and doing the other charity stuff, which can be arduous, but I'm lucky I've got a job lots of people haven't, so I'm never going to whinge or complain about that. Simple.
It may be difficult to balance his 3 personas or 3 me's, but with military charities embodying much of what Captain Wales stands for, he hopes to continue raising their profile for years to come. Combat operations in Afghanistan may be coming to an end next year, but for every member of the British forces that has been killed in action, several more have been wounded. And through his patronage and support, the Prince hopes they will never be forgotten.
I always hope to keep that connection with Walking with the Wounded and other such military-based charities, because hopefully the guys who are involved in that, and also at Headley Court and Selyoke and stuff like that, they know that myself and my brother have got military experience, and being surrounded by, the guys in the military, I like to think that you can speak to them on the same wavelength. So I always have a connection with the wounded servicemen and women, and based on the fact that we'll be finished here in 2014, 2015, that's not where it ends. And I know I've said this before, but you think of how many people have lost legs and lost arms, and also mentally as well. There's a lot of scars that are going to be left on a lot of people, and the support for that is going to be paramount for the rest of their lives. So even when this stops, that's going to continue for them. And that's what we need to remember.
His 4-month tour is over, his duty served. Captain Wells now awaits his next mission.